So we have to deal with the crystal field theory of splitting in the octahedral complexes. That's what we are dealing. So here CFT octahedral complexes. So this is what we are dealing with. So last time we have last class yesterday we have deal with the splitting. I told you the d orbitals, they are 5 because of the octahedral field. What is octahedral field? Ligands approach along the axis, along the axis. Ligands will approach along the axis. Because the ligands will approach along the axis, the orbitals which are oriented along the axis are repelled more. Repelled more. They are lifted to higher energy. This is what we heard later. They are lifted to higher energy. Higher energy. This is the idea what we have done. What are the orbitals which are oriented along the axis? That is dx square minus y square and dz square. These are the two orbitals which are oriented along the axis. So this 5d orbitals, actually the d orbitals are degenerate. Okay, degenerate means all the 5d orbitals have equal energy, but because of the approach of the ligands, there is the degeneracy is lifted. This very important term. The degeneracy is lifted. Degeneracy is lifted because of because ligands approach along the axis. The orbitals which are oriented along the axis are repelled more and they are lifted to higher energy. So there is no degeneracy left. So two orbitals will go to upper level and three orbitals will go to down level. So that is dxy, dyz, dzx. These three orbitals will go down because they will be lower energy. There won't be any repulsion, much repulsion these orbitals will face. So this set of orbitals is called T2G set. These three orbitals together is called T2G set. And now there are two other orbitals which is called EG set. That is the orbitals which are repelled more by the ligands. That is dx square minus y square, dz square. This is where we have ended in the last class. Now, now how to draw this CF? This is a rough sketch of the CFT. So this is the CFT diagram, crystal field theory diagram. So the splitting of the octahedral complexes. This is the rough sketch. So I will tell you how exactly it will be. That is today. So here, first let's draw the 5d orbitals like this, and you draw in such a way that the upper part, you draw one middle line first. There is a way to draw that. You draw one middle line and you draw the upper part that is EG. We will write dx square minus y square and dz square is what you have. And now this distance, ensure that this distance from the middle is more than that of this one. This is the T2G. EG will be, the EG orbitals will be at more distance compared to the distance of the T2G orbitals from the center. You draw one central line. This central line should be like this. And now this energy is like, we will call it, we will assign 3/5 of delta naught. I will tell you what is delta naught. and this is about 2/5 of delta naught. In other words, this is also written as 0.4 delta naught. This is about zero point 0.6 delta naught. So what is this stuff? I will tell you. Delta naught refers to octahedral field stabilization energy. Stabilization energy, or you can say the crystal field stabilization energy in the octahedral field, CFSE, for the octahedral field. CFSE for the octahedral field. For an octahedral field, how does it look like? So that is this entire thing. So if you sum up, what is the total gap between EG and T2G orbitals? That is the total gap. What is the total energy gap? That is delta naught. Total energy gap is delta naught. Okay, ma? So it is called CFSE, crystal field stabilization energy for the octahedral field. You see, this delta naught is 0.6 into delta naught for the EG orbitals and 2/5 of delta naught, that is 0.4 delta naught for EG, for the EG set, and 0.4 delta naught for T2G set. Okay, ma? Is this clear? So 0.6 plus 0.4 is 1.
Can you tell this once again?
Yeah, okay, definitely. Definitely. So we'll do that one more time. You see this. The 5d orbitals are like this, ma. If you have any doubt, please let me know now itself.
Okay,
You
sir.
draw one middle line. First, you draw one middle line. Draw one middle line. So you can draw that, right? Now what you do is, you draw the top two orbitals away. That is the EG set you draw once. And you put up this gap first. This gap should be more than this gap. This is 0.6 delta naught. Remember this. This gap should be more than this gap. That is a T2G set. Okay, first part. This is how to draw. Ensure that this gap, the EG set and this one, the middle one, middle line, gap should be more than this gap. Okay, that is the T2G set and the middle line. Okay, we'll talk about that. What is that middle line? We'll talk. First, you understand this. You ensure that drawing the diagram is like this. Now, this is my dx square minus y square. Sorry. This part is dxy, dyz, dzx, right? This is my T2G set. Now my EG set is dx square minus y square, dz square. Clear? Now,
Yes, sir.
what is the gap between the T2G and EG? The total is delta naught. The delta naught is called crystal field stabilization energy, CFSE. Crystal field stabilization energy. Crystal field stabilization energy. This is the total gap is called delta naught. That is crystal field stabilization energy. Clear up to now? Now how to draw the diagram? I'm telling you. This is how to draw the diagram. And this middle line is called Barry center. This middle line. Now we name this Barry center. This middle line, that name is called Barry center. Okay, ma? So this is how you can do. Now,
Okay, sir.
how to calculate CFSE. The next part is now this is clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now how to calculate CFSE. How to calculate CFSE. So actually, strictly speaking, we have to draw this diagram like this. First 5 orbitals, all the 5 are lifted to a little bit of high energy first. Okay, you may get confused. That's why I have not written this. All the 5 will be slightly lifted first. First, they will be at a very ground state. Slightly, they will be lifted in high energy, and then they will undergo splitting. Okay, ma. So this is how exactly we have to draw means. Exactly how to draw is like this, and then this is my Barry center, and this is 0.4 delta naught. This is 0.6 delta naught. This is how exactly we have to draw the diagram. Exactly speaking, the 5d orbitals, slightly they will be lifted in energy, and that's how it is. And 0.4 delta naught. This is my T2G. So how to remember this? T2G means 3, T for 3. You remember like this. T meant for 3 orbitals. So what are the 3? dxy, dyz, dzx. These are the 3
Okay,
orbitals.
sir.
And EG refers to, there are only 2 terms here. So 2 orbitals. Like that you can remember. Here 3 terms are there. 1, 2, 3. Right? T,
Yes,
2,
sir.
G. So 3 terms are there. So 3 orbitals. Here EG 2 terms are there. 2 orbitals. Like this also you can remember very easily. Now it is very easy for you to remember. Now it is like this. Now ensure that this gap from the Barry center, this middle line is called Barry center. From the middle line, ensure that the top orbitals, the EG, are at a higher distance compared to that of the orbitals which are at which the T2G will be at the lower distance. Now, after this, we'll write a formula for CFSE. The CFSE formula, this is very, very important. CFSE formula is negative of 0.4 delta naught plus 0.6 delta naught. So this is what the formula is. So top is positive, bottom is negative. Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is the significance of this? I will tell you the significance of this. Now, noted this one up to here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now I will tell you. We will write another factor is coming 0.4x and 0.6y. Will write. I'll tell you how what is this 0.4x delta naught and 0.6y delta naught. Okay, I will tell you what is it. I'll clear this.
Okay.
So CFSE is the number of, strictly speaking, number of electrons filled in T2G orbitals. Number of electrons filled in T2G orbitals. Let us say it is x. X into minus 0.4 delta naught. This is actually the calculation. Now, time plus number of electrons filled in EG orbitals. EG orbitals. Let us say this number is y into 0.6 delta naught. This is the exact formula. So we write in the textbooks, we write it like minus 0.4 x into delta naught plus 0.6 y into delta naught. This is what we see in textbooks. What is the significance of this? Will tell you. I will tell you now. What is the significance of this particular equation?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now, see, if you have to remember certain things like one of the fundamental aspect, if energy is negative, it gives stability to the system. Stability to the system. Very important. If the energy is negative, it gives stability to the system. That means you see that thing point for negative point for delta naught. It signifies that for each electron filling in T2G orbitals, the system, the octahedral, I mean the complex, the octahedral complex, hedral complex is stabilized by zero point 0.4 delta naught. That's what it means. So the more the electrons fill, suppose 2 electrons are filled in the T2G orbitals, that is the system is stabilized by zero point 0.8 delta naught. Are you getting the funda? Suppose 1 electron is filled, 1 electron filled, assume 1 electron is filled means 1 into minus 0.4 delta naught. We'll write this. Okay. So that is in the T2G orbitals. T2G orbitals. So if it is like this, T2G orbitals, negative energy, especially negative energy, when you see negative energy is more stability. So 1 into minus 0.4 delta naught. That is if 1 electron filled. If 2 electrons are filled, 2 electrons are filled, how do you take this? 2 electrons are filled means 2 into negative 0.4 delta naught. So it gives minus 0.8 delta naught. What does it mean? It means that the system is stabilized by 0.8 delta naught. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, so when I say positive energy means what? Positive energy means destabilization. Destabilization of the octahedral complex. It's not that the complex becomes unstable, completely unstable if the electron goes there. It compensates the thing is that first the electrons will start filling at the lower energy levels, right? So that's the idea they want to make. It's not like completely the complex gets destabilized when the electrons are filled there. It means that the electrons will get filled at the lower energy levels compared to the higher energy levels first. So positive energy means destabilization in general. This is the idea. I'm telling the general idea, very general idea. Now that it says that if the electrons are filled in the EG orbitals, of course, electron EG orbitals, if the electron is filled in the EG orbitals, suppose, so it's a situation, let us say 2 electrons are filled in the EG orbitals, EG. When it comes to EG, that is destabilized by plus 0.6 delta naught. The instead of staying destabilization, I don't like the word destabilization, but I would say that the system will gain more energy, like the system is excited to more energy level, that is like 0.6 delta naught. So that it is like that. So when 2 electrons are filled, that is 2 into 0.6, so that is 1.2 delta naught. So this is how, if 2 electrons are going there, that becomes 1.2 delta naught. So your crystal field stabilization energy will be compensation of both the things. How much stability, how much instability. So it's a combination. For suppose, I'll tell you. So suppose 5d orbitals. So let us say we have 5d orbitals, and then they have gone like this. Okay, you know this very well. All the 5 like this. Okay, they have gone like this. Suppose I have 3 electrons are filled like this and 2 are filled here. 3 electrons are here and 2 are filled here. So for this situation, this is 0.6 delta naught. And now this is negative 0.4 delta naught. So it is like the total, if you have to find CFSE, in this case, it becomes 0. You see this. So it is like negative 0.4 into 3 electrons are filled. So it is 0.3 into delta naught plus 0.6 into 2 into delta naught. In this case, CFSE is 0. So 0 also, this situations we have seen. We have seen this kind of D5 systems. It's like the D5 systems. It's like high spin complex. That is a kind of situation, high spin. There is situation, another situation I'll let you know. So suppose this, how to calculate. So another situation is like this. You have, this is EG and T2G. Suppose I have 3 electrons here. I will get a situation where all the 5 electrons can be paired within the lower level itself. Suppose this also can happen. This also can happen. If all the electrons are filled at the lower level itself, I will get 5 into negative 0.4 delta naught. So this is 5 fours. So it will be minus 2 delta naught. I hope you got the idea. So the system is stabilized by minus 2 delta naught. If all the 5 electrons are filled in the lower level, you will not get this lower level completely removed. You cannot get the filling over in the higher level. 2 electrons are there. All the 2 electrons are filled in the higher level. That you will never get. First filling of the lower level followed by filling of the higher level, like what you see the electron filling, electron configuration. It's the same similar situation. Okay, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we have something called spectrochemical series. Okay. Next one is called spectrochemical series. Spectrochemical or electrochemical. Sometimes a spectrochemical series only they will talk. Spectrochemical series is the series of ligands depending upon their energies. What is the energy they can create? So they will create the strong field. Means the stronger the field, what happens, I will let you know. So let us say CO. This the CO is the strongest, greater than Cn minus. Okay. That is greater than En. En refers to ethylene diamine. That is greater than NH3. That is greater than EDTA. EDTA, of course, 4 minus. This is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. I'll draw the structure also for you. And NCS minus. And H2O, greater than H2O. That is greater than C2O for 2 minus. And that's greater than OH minus, which is greater than F minus. From F minus onwards, they are all weak field, amma. S2 minus. I'll tell you what is weak field and strong field. Cl minus, and SCN minus, and Br minus and I minus. Greater than Br minus and I minus. So this is called spectrochemical series. This is the order of the ligand field. So these are the strong. This is very strong ligand. Okay, very strong. We'll call very strong ligand. Strong ligands. Okay, very strong ligands. So they create strong field ligands. They are also called strong field ligands. What is this strong field ligands? I'll tell you the basic idea. What is the basic idea is that these 5 d orbitals are there, no? How much is the delta naught? Delta naught is not a fixed value actually. So this delta naught value The orbitals, if they create a very strong repulsions, this ligands, no, they create a very strong repulsions. So what happens is this gap between the Eg and the T2g orbitals, the gap between Eg and T2g orbitals will be more if the ligand strength increases. That is delta naught. Gap between Eg and T2g is the nothing but delta naught will be more if the ligands are strong field type. Strong field type. So what is the thing if they create the strong field? So what if they create the strong field? Okay, I tell you one thing. Suppose I have the central metal ion is D5, assume the central metal ion is having D5 system. Suppose it is strong field. So D5 means, how do you write actually? All the 5 electrons in the d orbitals, just like this you will write, right? Each orbital will have one electron. Okay, ma? This is general way of writing.
Okay,
Are
sir.
you getting me? Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what happens if I have created a strong field? What if it's a strong field? Just a minute. Just a minute. Now, let's see. What if I created a strong field? What happens in the strong field? See, these 5 electrons, they have to be filled. Now, first, they will fill at the low energy, right? 1, 2, 3. Because the next electron, where it has to go? Here, right? Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you see, next electron has to go here. But because this gap is more, that electrons will tend to pair back here itself. Rather, you will not get this kind of configuration. You will get this kind of configuration. So this is called forced pairing. So electrons will be forced to pair, leaving some orbitals, which will create inner orbital complexes. Okay, ma? Clear?
Yes, sir.
So whenever the forced pairing happens, suppose this is a D5 system. Suppose there is something called D7 system. So how D7 system will behave? Let us see. Suppose D7 means in general it will be like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the D7 system. So what happens actually when the electrons, you can start filling here, it's actually up to here, they will get filled. That means this electron will also go back and then it gets filled, and this electron will jump here. So here it will be like this, and that's how you get D7 system. In general, you will not get this. In general, this will not happen here. Rather, it will happen here. D7 system means you have to get, in fact, 3 unpaired electrons. 3 unpaired electrons. So it should be the case. But rather, you will get only 1 unpaired electron because of this forced pairing. So forced pairing happens when you have very strong fields. This gap increases, so the electrons will tend to come back for the forced pairing. They have to pair back. They want to pair back instead of going to the higher energy levels and be like an unpaired electron. They will feel like they want to get paired instead of going to the higher energy level, because they have to cross a very high energy barrier. So this problem, so that's what the forced pairing is. These ligands will force the electrons to pair into their orbitals. So that order of forced pairing is given by this series called spectrochemical series.
Okay, sir.
Okay, ma. The next is tetrahedral complexes. Tetrahedral complexes, this situation is entirely reverse of octahedral. It is reverse of the octahedral complexes. So this is 5d orbitals, and again they are lifted to some energy. Here, what is the thing you have to remember is ligands approach uh, from in the, I should say, in the ligands approach the orbitals dxy for easy for you to understand dyz and dzx. This is how ligands will approach these orbitals. So that ligands will approach from in between the axis. So that's how you can think of. So it is not along the axis, they will go in between the axis. These are the orbitals which are going in between the axis. So you will get T2G on the top and EG at the bottom. The orbitals which are along the axis, they will go down, and the orbitals to the top will go up. But this is a rough diagram. I will draw that once again. Actually speaking, so 5, I had to draw the barycenter correctly. This is the barycenter. Barycenter. From the barycenter, you ensure this, that T2G will be at the small gap, that is 0.4 delta naught, and the EG will be at a larger gap. Now this is not delta naught, we'll call it delta T now. T stands for tetrahedral, 0.4 delta T. That's only the change. And now this is 0.6 delta T, we'll call. Delta T means tetrahedral crystal field stabilization energy for the tetrahedral complex. So here the CFSE will be calculated as minus 0.6 x delta naught, delta T, sorry, plus 0.4 y delta T, where delta T stands for tetrahedral stabilization energy. And the tetrahedral is 4 by 9th of delta naught, octahedral in general. This is an empirical rule, but still it follows. Delta T is 4 9th of delta naught.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma? Next one.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes.
color in the complexes, this you can go through the color in complexes. Color in complexes, you can read it as homework. Complexes, that is due to DD transitions. We'll say DD transitions. Because of the DD transitions, you will get color. This you can take it as homework. So please do that as homework, and color of some gemstones also. Color of gemstones. Generally, they don't ask about these gemstones. What are the colors? All these things they don't ask.
Okay, sir.
So generally, you can read that in general. Color of the DD complexes is thus. And then the other part is limitation. What are the limitations of CFT? What are the limitations of CFT. This you can read it as a question. This is not a big thing, but there is a remote chance that they will ask that CFT. But the crystal field stabilization energy diagram, you can have a look at it. Whatever we have drawn, that two drawings you keep that in mind. So that will do. Okay. Now we'll go to the next part. Stability and significance of metal carbonyls. I don't know whether this metal carbonyls is there for you or not, but anyway, we'll deal with that. Metal carbonyls. What are these metal carbonyls? The complexes of carbon monoxide. Complexes of carbon monoxide are called complexes of carbon monoxide with metals. With metals are called carbonyls, metal carbonyls. So it's the remote chance that they will ask this metal carbonyls for you. But because it is there, we are doing it. It's a very remote chance they'll ask you about metal carbonyls. So some of the structures they can ask you. So that structures itself will draw and then we'll close it. That is sufficient. What are the structures I will tell you? One is nickel carbonyl. So this is nickel carbonyl. This is a structure of nickel carbonyl. Okay, ma, nickel carbonyl is tetrahedral. Nickel in the zero state. It will be nickel in the zero state. It is used in Mond's process. Mond's process for the extraction of nickel. For extraction of nickel. For extraction of nickel. So this is the first part you have to know. For the extraction of nickel, what is the thing required? This is the nickel carbonyl, first structure, tetrahedral structure. This is a tetrahedral structure. Okay, ma? This is the first one.
Okay,
First
sir.
one. Next one. The next one is iron carbonyl, FeCO5. FeCO5. These structures alone they can ask you. Maximum they can ask you the structures. This is the FeCO5. This is the TBP, trigonal bipyramid structure, iron carbonyl, FeCO5. Iron carbonyl. Next. Clear, Amma? Return this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The structures alone you practice. This is sufficient. Don't worry too much about the other things. The next is chromium carbonyl. Chromium carbonyl is octahedral. This is the chromium carbonyl, octahedral structure. And the last one is Mn2CO10. This they can ask. This is very, very important structure. Draw the structure of Mn2CO10. That is a question, Amma. Draw the structure of Mn2CO10. So this you have to practice. Mn bond will be there with CO, CO, and CO is like this. CO. Okay, ma. And now this is again CO, CO. So it is downwards. So it is crossing this. Huh? Okay, fine. Okay, you have this one, CO, CO. Where else I can draw? So here is CO. This is CO. Mn2 CO10. Okay, na? So this is the structure summary. This is I think this is sufficient. I feel this is sufficient. Uh, you have stability constant. I doubt the. I see hardly this question will be asked about stability constant. Stability constant, I doubt, but we'll see. I doubt about the stability constant. What they will ask about the stability constant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will tell you. Suppose they have given one example. We'll talk the stability constant. I think this is sufficient. Afterwards, you can write. Okay, there is something called overall stability constant. Overall stability constant calculation. Overall stability constant calculation. What is this overall stability constant calculation? Overall stability constant calculation. So for this, what you have to do? It is some m. This is the example only. They will ask you mH2O n times. N times is there, and it is treated with n number of ligands. Then you will get a complex MLN, leaving the water molecules outside. And this complex is more stable compared to the water complex. That's the reason the ligand is replacing the water molecules. Now we call this the beta n, which is called the overall stability constant, which is the concentration of MLN into concentration of H2O power n. H2O power n can be taken as 1, no problem, but still we'll write. So this is taken as 1. H2O, the concentration of H2O can be taken as 1. So no problem. H2O power n, we can go take it to 1. So no issues. That we'll write later. So divided by concentration of L power n, right, into concentration of MH2O n times, like this you can write. And secondly, so here H2O, I told you that can be taken as 1. So the beta n is the overall stability constant. You can write it as MLN divided by the ligand concentration power n times MH2O in times. First, we'll write this. So this step 1. Now, the overall stability constant can be calculated in stepwise. That is the idea. So how it will be done? Written this, ma? The idea is to get MLN. So how do we get MLN? M plus L is ML, will write. Okay, we'll write the K1 as the stability constant. That is nothing but concentration of Ml divided by concentration of the metal ion into concentration of L. First, we'll write this. Now, Ml plus L again. We'll write Ml2. And again, we'll write K2. So, the equilibrium constant we are talking about. So, we'll write reverse arrow. So, we'll write K2 for this. K2 is Ml2 divided by Ml times L. Now the third step is Ml2 plus L again. Easy only this is. We'll write Ml3. And now K3. What it would be, can you guess? So it is simply Ml3, right, divided by Ml3 divided by Ml2 into Ml2 into L, right? Like this. So on. This is n times if you do it for n times, then what you get is MLN, right? If you repeat the same process, what I get is MLN.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now what I want is, you see, what is the product of K1 into K2 into K3? Let us check that. So I'll write the product. K1 into K2 into K3, so on up to Kn. What happens here? What is K1 we have written? If you check it, K1 is ml by ml divided by concentration of M into concentration of L. That is the first part. K2 is ml2 divided by ml into L, right? Into the next one, ml3 divided by ml2 into L. Okay, you can go on like this. So you have the final thing is mln divided by, you will get ml minus 1 times L, like this you will get. Now you see ml ml m like this, it will get cancelled. M will stay as is. Yeah, sorry, M will stay as is. M will not get cancelled. Now ml ml ml2 ml2 ml3 ml3, like this it will go on cancelling. Ml minus 1, up to that it will get cancelled. Now how many L's are there? You see n L's are there. So what I get is, on the top I get mln divided by concentration of M into L whole power n. This is what I get finally. So M refers to, it is like MH2O. That M refers to MH2O complex only. That's what he wants to tell. That is H2O n times. MH2O n times complex only. He's talking as the concentration of metal ion actually. In fact, it is. So this is nothing but my overall stability constant beta n. So the beta n is nothing but the K1 into K2 into K3, so on up to Kn. That is, overall stability constant is the product of the stepwise stability constants. So overall stability constant is the product of stepwise stability constants. Stability constants. So this is the fundamental idea. That's it. With this sufficient. Or suppose we have one example. Oh, okay, we can do that. So we have an example for this. Can I clear this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So suppose you have Cu2 plus that is treated with ammonia NH3. So we get some CuNH3 2 plus first. 2 plus. This complex is formed. Now let us say this is having the equilibrium constant K1, that is the concentration of CuNH3 2 plus ion, the concentration of this whole divided by the concentration of Cu2 plus times the concentration of NH3. That is my K1. And now again your CuNH3 2 plus ion is again treated with ammonia molecule to get CuNH3 twice. Okay. So 2 plus ion once again. So let's write it as K2. K2 is CuNH3. Okay, twice. 2 plus whole divided by, what you get is CuNH3. Okay, ma, 2 plus, here it's twice, here it is only once. Please see that there is a variation between that, and you have NH3. So suppose the next case is that, okay, these are the two things. Okay, so if it is like when you write Cu2 plus 2NH3 gives CuNH3 twice 2 plus, right? So here I get the overall stability constant, which is beta 2. I will write beta 2 is CuNH3 twice 2 plus ion concentration divided by concentration of Cu2 plus into concentration of NH3 square. That is nothing but K1 into K2. You can check this. That is nothing but, if you take the product, you see this one and this one will get cancelled out. This one and this one gets cancelled out. This NH3 into NH3 is NH3 square, and now Cu2 plus will sustain as it is. You see this, when you take the product K1 and K2, this one with this one, CuNH3 2 plus and CuNH3 2 plus, these two terms will get cancelled. You can try that. In the fractions they get cancelled because they are concentrations, they get cancelled. Okay, ma? Sufficient. That this is sufficient. Significance of coordination complexes, role of coordination complexes in analytical chemistry. That rest of the parts, if you can, you read. Otherwise, I don't think they will ask much questions on that. This is entirely sufficient.
Portion is deleted, sir.
Which portion, ma?
The application and importance of
Yeah. Then that is fine. You leave that. Let's leave that. No problem. Then we'll go to organic. Next class,
Yes,
no.
sir.
Next class we'll move on to organic. So the next class, next week, as I am on leave now, ma, if I find some time, shall I put up a class around maybe like evening 5 o'clock, like day after tomorrow, Tuesday?
3:30 I have class, sir.
5:30 you are have class. Okay. Like 4:30, can we have 4:30 to 5:30 evening?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or if I am available in the morning, like 8 o'clock, can we do that? Hello?
Okay, sir.
Okay, I will let you know by Tuesday, ma. Tuesday or Wednesday, I will let you know. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, ma.
Okay, sir.
Right. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Okay, ma. Bye.
Thank you, sir.